So hello, and thanks for joining the UX Showcase. I'm going to be doing a little bit of a presentation on the recent work that we've been doing within Manage Analytics and how that's gone on to inform the general direction of our product and some of the insights that we learned along the way about our users, engineering directors. So I, as I mentioned before, work in the manage stage in the analytics group, and there's a bunch of very talented people in there that I'm very happy to be working with. My name should be purple there. I don't know why it's not, but what can you do? As you can see, there's a lot of our products at the moment are at minimal level of maturity and not very lovable. So that's sort of because it's a relatively new product and we're sort of working out as we go. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we've been working on our roadmap. So about 6 to 8 weeks ago, we were feeling a little bit lost in terms of our product. We were feeling a little bit unclear on the general needs that we had around our users. From past research, there's a lot of sort of variance in the requirements that users were talking about. We were receiving quite poor feedback around productivity analytics as something that we put out there recently as an MVC, and our product manager also left the team. So all in all, this is around the time that I joined 3 months ago, and lots of stuff was happening. So me and the rest of the team were feeling a little bit lost. So we thought it would be an important time to basically press pause for a little bit and conduct some strategic UX research to do a little bit of problem validation, understanding a little bit more about the needs and wants of engineering directors in the analytics space, and use this as like a North Star to sort of direct us in terms of our vision and where we want to go with this analytics product. So our research goals are threefold. One was to create some proto-personas around the engineering director. We don't have any of those yet. Two was to get a backlog of jobs to be done associated with those personas. And three was to use this insight around personas and jobs to be done to inform the general direction of the roadmap. The research scope was 5 customer engineering directors and 7 GitLab engineering directors. So quite a lot of data and quite a lot of effort to do it, but I think it was quite worthwhile. So we pressed pause and started to conduct some research, and we did this in order to better understand our users and their needs. And we employed a number of methodologies and different approaches to sort of get a good understanding of the different dimensions that users are interested in. So first off, we did a bit of a prioritization exercise, which we call Product Manager for a Day, where we get to have users sort of allocate money in areas of analytics that they're specifically interested in. We did a bit of guided discussion around responsibilities and jobs to be done. And that discussion followed on with some sort of talk around lo-fi stimuli. And then finally once we had all this sort of huge amounts of information, we needed to sort of organize it and synthesize it some way. So we used a lot of visual synthesis within Mural around empathy maps and a few other things to try and organize our thoughts. So what are some of the insights that came out of this? First off, we found some similarities between customer and GitLab engineering directors. First off, engineering directors live at the intersection of 3 domains. People, obviously the people who they are managing, their engineering managers and the individual contributors. Process, how they go about executing and creating code. And then product, as in the code itself, all the stuff around creating something great for customers. And then secondly, there was a sort of interesting convergence where EDs seem to conform around different sets of working modes. And this seemed to be apparent based on like the limited bandwidth and volume and somehow finding a way to manage their volume of work. So firefighting, lots of things like an outage could happen. That would mean that they would sort of take up a lot of their time during a day. Delegating towards people in their team, coaching people in their team, and also sort of driving strategic initiatives and so on. And then finally, there is also a lot of time of uncertainty of what people should be doing, specifically within GitLab as well, when there's so much information noise to deal with. So processing seemed to be an interesting part of this as well. We also found, so off the back of this research, finding some similarities, sort of brainstorming around what are some of the opportunities that could come off the back of these similarities between the GitLab engineering directors and the customer engineering directors. One of those would be, how can we help engineering directors get a full picture of their people, processes, and product? How might we create an actionable front page for when an engineering director starts their day? And this is a little bit of inspiration around my former company, Salesforce, where they had really nice, interesting front pages, which sort of led for salespeople or sales managers to understand what they should do with their day and how they can organize themselves. And then finally, how can we cater for different types of information required in each of these working modes mentioned before? Secondly, in terms of some insights, we found some interesting differences as well. Whether an engineering director or a company was project-minded or product-minded had a big impact on the way engineering directors looked at responsibilities and KPIs. So for example, GitLab directors are very much product-minded. However, we spoke with a number of consultancies and agencies, and the way they viewed responsibilities was very different because they organized in terms of projects. Furthermore, spoke with a bunch of engineering directors who didn't necessarily have engineering managers. They had 20, 30 reports directly reporting to them. And as you could expect, they're very much overwhelmed. And this impacted the sort of level of preference around analytics categories that they're interested in, and also the sort of data granularity of those analytics categories. And then furthermore, there is also other responsibilities that engineering directors potentially had based on the size of their companies. So we spoke with some who worked with customers on customer engagement. We had some who worked in sort of a little bit around business development, project scoping, financials, lots of different stuff. So there's the potential that they may be wearing other hats. So based on the differences that we heard between customer and GitLab engineering directors, what are some of the opportunities? Well, how might we cater to different needs of project-minded versus product-minded engineering directors? How might we help to streamline the process of collecting contextual information from the team on different metrics, and so on and so forth? So the final insight that I want to show you is the results of this prioritization exercise that I talked about before. And this is the PM for a day thing. And as you can see, these are the GitLab results and the customer results. We found some interesting similarities on this as well in terms of project health and code review being relatively high up. And also very surprisingly, productivity and value stream were pretty much on opposite ends of the spectrum. The way we can rationalize productivity being a high priority for GitLab is we tend to optimize optimize for throughput as a company, whereas a lot of the customers that we spoke to optimize towards predictability. So that's another thing that we'll be focusing on in the future. So those are some of the insights. There's loads more insights in like the full read report that I've done, but how did these insights and how did this overall research impact what we're doing on this product? So what? And we have sort of laid out this roadmap for our new path forward based on the insights that we have. We've decided in 12.6 to start working on a code review analytics MVC. We chose this one specifically because the create team's also doing a little bit of work on code review MVC. So we thought there would be some interesting areas for collaboration around that. I will be grooming the backlog of jobs to be done that came out of this research as well, to basically create an opportunity map of all the areas we can focus on in future milestones. But after this, we're going to do a project health MVC, a little bit of DevOps score MVC as well in 12.7. And then we're going to take the PM for a day exercise and we're going to scale it up So we get better statistical significance since there's only about 6 customers and seven directors who provided input into that. And we also want to look at how, share this survey not with just engineering directors, but engineering managers and individual contributors as well, to understand where analytics preferences lie across this sort of spectrum of hierarchy. And if there are any overlaps, that's sort of a big value driver there. Other things coming down the way, but there's a lot of solution validation coming up. But to summarize, we used UX research to reorient ourselves around value creating opportunities for our users by understanding some of the core needs and preferences of engineering directors. Please go ahead, read the research report that I did in full if you're interested, and provide any feedback. And thank you very much for your time.